I got that storage tray out of there. Got a good sighting in on those pulleys right there, and that fuel pump. Let's see here. Get a little light on that maybe. There we go. Anyway, there's no sign of any leakage or anything. The fuel pump all looks good there. No corrosion or anything anywhere. It's as clean as a whistle down here. There's the fitting where it comes out of the auxiliary fuel tank, the belly tank, and that's clean as it could be. That's nice, and the whole belly is nice and clean, just the way it should be. So I'm happy with that. All I have to do is decide whether I'm going to put a inspection cover in that thing or not for that, but it looks pretty good right now. It's not that hard to get out of there, I guess. It gives me a good chance to check the rest of the belly there too, with the lower stringer there and all of that stuff, and those pulleys. So there's a pulley over there on the side for the rudders, and the two for the elevators there, and another one on this side for the rudder. So anyway, that's good enough. I should take that out of there, I guess. Shouldn't worry too much about making an inspection hole in there, because it's a good idea to inspect those pulleys and lubricate them and stuff anyway, and check those cables where they go across the pulleys, make sure everything's moving the way it's supposed to. Anyway, that looks really good. I'm really happy with that. Looks just like the day it was closed up and put together. There's one more thing off the list to inspect. I put that underseat tray back in there, got it all buttoned down, cleaned up, put some new screws in the hold downs over there with some anti-seize on them and stuff, and that's all back together nice and neat. I've got to put the seat back in, but I've got a couple other things to do in there first. I've got to get back in there and then to the ELT and inspect that back end back there. But that much is done. I got the pulleys lubricated and checked the cables. The cables were all just like new. Anyway, that much is back together, and we'll be on to the next thing. The fuel pump and everything looked really good underneath that underseat baggage storage compartment and underneath the baggage compartment back there. So I put that all back together. Now I'm looking here in the rest of the cabin, the cockpit. Over there on that side is where the aileron cable goes out to the left wing, and there's a pulley right there. Well, that looks good, and I checked that cable and it's not frayed or anything there. It's good. So I'll put a bit of lubricant on that pulley and button that back up. And looking down here underneath the torque tube where it attaches, this is the rear stick attachment, and this is where the aileron cables hook up to the torque tube. I'm looking in there and it's nice and clean down there in the bottom. No water, nothing in there, no crap in there. The tubes are all nice and clean. There's no rust on them or anything. The cables, attachments, the bolts and stuff that hold all that together are still in good shape. There's a pulley there underneath that torque tube that's kind of an idler pulley for the elevator cable. Put a little bit of lube on it, but it looks good. And the elevator cables, of course, I checked those earlier. They all look good. It was a little bit dirty in here. It didn't clean up very good after our last flight, so I've been mopping the floor in here and cleaning that up. I built these covers like here over this aileron pulley. That covers that up and seals that up a lot better than the standard metal, pressed metal ones that they had. And of course this bulkhead back here keeps any crap from going back in that way. And then I've got a little plastic, little Kydex cover that I made to go over this opening underneath the torque tube. And those are all working pretty good to keep everything clean. They got a little bit of dirt underneath the edges of them and stuff, but it wiped right up, and it's keeping it out from underneath the belly of the airplane. Put that one back together over there, put that cover back on, or put a little lube in there and then put that cover back on. Take the one over here off on the right side and check it, make sure it's good. And then I'll go on up to the front. I've got covers up there and the elevator cable, and then the flap handle. It needs to be lubed where it pivots there and stuff, and get that stuff checked out. But so far everything's looking good. The attachments up there for the rudders to the rudder pedals, those are all nice, and there's no frayed cables in there anywhere. And then the water retract cables function the way it's supposed to. And looking under the seat, the pilot seat, That's all still attached real good. I've got little booties over that to keep any crap from going down underneath those, but there's no rust or cracks or anything in the pilot seat. And then the battery box and the solenoids and stuff, they all look good. The cables are all good on that. So I'll just keep working away here and take stuff apart and put stuff back together and lube and check. And said so far everything's looking really good. I have to lube, I think I said that, lube that torque tube. There's a bushing right there where those bolts are. How come my thing won't focus? There we go, now it's focusing. Okay, there's a little oil hole on that clamp, that bushing over that torque tube. We'll put some oil on that, but everything is running smooth. So far, there's another clamp up there at the front where the torque tube attaches in front of the pilot seat. We'll get that taken care of too. Well, the cabin is all back together. The cockpit's all back together. Everything looks good. The controls all work the way they're supposed to. The cables are all good. I lubed the pulleys, lubed the torque tube and the flap handle. The front seat looks good. I got to put the back seat back in, but that's not a big deal. And then still got to put this front panel back in, but I'm going to wait to do that till after I get that new circuit breaker for the alternator. Otherwise, everything looks good in here. Get it all cleaned up and buttoned back up. Oh, good. Don't have to worry about that.